Hello, everyone. My name is Lindsay Brown. I'm a registered dietitian and nutrition mentor here at Basics Market. I'm excited for you to join me tonight for the Power of Pulse classes, and I'm going to have a lot of information, nutrition information, and a couple recipes that I'm going to demonstrate for you guys using pulses. So the next thing, a little bit about Basics Market. Basics Market is a locally owned market with a purpose, nurturing strong, healthy communities through food with simplified selection, fresh ingredients, and healthful recipes. Our 5 locations in the Portland area are small, accessible, focus on just what you need to cook healthful meals at home. And I also wanted to pass along Happy Heart Health Month. So February is Heart Health Awareness Month, and that's one of the main reasons I wanted to focus on pulses tonight, because there's so many great health benefits that you can get through pulses that can decrease your risk of cardiovascular disease. They can help reduce lower density lipoprotein levels, so the LDL levels, which is also known as your bad cholesterol. They can promote healthy blood sugar levels, blood pressure. So they're great food source to help support heart health. And I hope that you learn a lot today and can incorporate more pulses in your diet. Okay, just wanting to review the class schedule. The nutrition presentation is going to be about 25 minutes, but I'm going to open up with one of the recipes I'll be demonstrating, and it's our turkey lentil sloppy joes. And then I'm going to be wrapping up with our herb white bean dip. And then for Q&A, you can ask Q&A throughout, or if you have any questions, you can ask that throughout the presentation. So I'm not going to say that to the end. If you have a question throughout the presentation, we'll try to get to it. And if I don't, then I'll make sure I try to address it at the end of the presentation. Okay, so opening up with our turkey and lentil sloppy joes recipe. This is a heart-healthy recipe. It's dairy-free and can be easily changed to gluten-free. We use a whole grain bun, but that can easily be swapped out with a gluten-free bun if you are gluten-free. I already started to brown I'm using actually white meat chicken instead of turkey. So you can use 12-ounce turkey or chicken. Also, lean ground beef works well in this recipe. So I've already browned that, along with I chopped a large onion and 4 cloves of garlic. So I have that going in the pan. And now I'm going to add our soaked lentils. So this is 1/4 cup soaked brown lentils. The recipe does say red lentils, but you can use brown, and that's what we have in hand. So I'm going to put the brown lentils in the dish. And then I'm going to add 2 cups of water. And that's so the lentils can continue to cook and absorb and expand. And I love this recipe because it replaces at least half of the meat with a pulse. And we're using lentils, so it's going to increase your fiber, also provide a plant-based protein versus just getting your protein source through the meat. Now I'm going to add a can of low sodium or reduced sodium diced tomatoes. And this recipe is nice because it's quick, it's easy. The only thing you have to have a little bit of patience on is the cook time. And we're going to let it simmer throughout the presentation. So it's going to take about 25 minutes before it is completely done. So I'm going to add a 6-ounce can of tomato paste. This recipe is also nice as a leftover. I think it's kind of like chili, and it provides a little bit more flavor the day after. So it's a great leftover dish. I'm trying to heat up to a medium heat. Get that stirred around. Now I'm going to add, we got Worcestershire, so a teaspoon of Worcestershire. And then I have 2 teaspoons. The recipe calls for coconut aminos. I'm actually going to use a reduced sodium tamari sauce. And the reason for that is I actually have a coconut allergy and I want to eat this after. So I'm going to use the tamari sauce, and both work well. With coconut aminos, it actually has a little bit of a sweet taste to it, so it lends itself well to this recipe. But if you don't have it around, you can use a tamari sauce or even a soy sauce. The sodium level is the same in these two. A regular soy sauce is going to be a little bit higher in sodium than both of those options. Okay, now I'm going to move on to spice, which is our chili powder. It's 2 tablespoons of chili powder, so quite a bit of chili powder, but it gives it a nice flavor. Okay, so we're going to do a quick stir and turn the heat up to a little medium high, and we're going to let it simmer for about 25 minutes. You can add Tabasco sauce to it for a little bit of spice. I'm a 2-star person, so I'm going to just add a couple of dashes. If you like it spicier, you can add more hot sauce if you like. A quick stir. And then we're going to just let that simmer for about 25 minutes, so it should be done at the end of the presentation. Okay, move a few things. So now we're moving on to the nutrition part of the presentation. I get the question of what the heck are pulses? And to be honest, I didn't know what a pulse was until I think I was after college, and I was a nutrition major. So don't feel bad if you don't know what a pulse is. But pulses have been around for at least 10,000 years. They are grown in pods and harvested when they're dry. So instead of like grasses when they're so kind of green, or other legumes when they're so green, the pulses are harvested when they are completely dry. And examples of them can be dried beans. And I have some examples over here. You have your pinto, black beans, great northern beans, cannellini beans. We have a couple different heirloom varieties that we sell at our Sandy location. Those are some brand. And there's like Christmas lime beans. There's a lentil and bean mixture variety package. So there's some fun ones at our Sandy market if you're interested in trying some heirloom beans. We also have, for different examples, continuing on with that, our dried broad beans, our dried peas, and most commonly we know these as our split peas. We have dried chickpeas, and those are going to be known as garbanzos. You'll see them as garbanzo beans. Dried cow beans, those are actually labeled as black-eyed peas. I'm not for sure how the bean got to a pea, but black-eyed peas are actually known as dried cow beans. And then we have lentils, and lentils come in all variety of colors. There's red, yellow, black, brown, green. So there's a lot of different colors of lentils out there. Lupine or lupin, you'll see it both ways. And this is actually the pretty flower that is grown in, you'll see in the springtime, but they're actually a pulse crop. And in America, they're not quite as common, but I did learn that Australia, they're the largest pulse crop for Australia. So interesting fact there. And then pigeon peas, you'll see them as pigeon peas or Cajun peas. I put this picture up here for y'all because I am a visual person. I like to see pictures. And then also the source that this came from is pulses.org. This is a great resource if you're wanting to learn more about pulses. And this is where this picture came from. So I recommend if you want to learn more to look pulses.org up, and they're going to have an array of different information and recipes using pulses. So pulses are part of the legume family. And within legumes, you have soybeans and peanuts. And then you have the pulses, which we just learned, are the dried legumes. And then you have the fresh legumes, which are fresh peas and fresh beans. The reason why soybeans and peanuts are in their own category is because their macronutrient breakdown is quite different than the pulses. So soybeans and peanuts, majority of their macronutrients or energy comes from fat, whereas pulses comes through carbohydrates or starch. So that's why they're mainly, they're in their own groups and separated within the legume family. And then obviously fresh beans and fresh peas are harvested when they're still green. Okay, before we go into what type of vitamin and minerals pulses contain, I wanted to pass along what a serving size is for pulses. So you know what I was talking about when I say based off of a serving size. So a serving size is a half cup cooked or a fourth cup dry. And the dietary guidelines for Americans recommend that we consume 3 cups of pulses, or sorry, legumes, which pulses are within that family we just learned, per week. And right now, Americans consume less than 1 cup. So we have quite a bit of room to grow and help get more pulses in our diet. So hopefully the tips and tricks I provide tonight, as well as the nutrition information, will encourage you to increase your intake of pulses, or share this information with a friend. Okay, they are extremely high in protein, and I learned the reason why they have so much protein is because of this friendly bacteria that is found in soil. So this friendly bacteria infiltrates into their root system, and when that happens, the plant requires a significant amount more of nitrogen to grow. So the plant consumes more nitrogen, and then that nitrogen is eventually converted into protein in the seed. So I thought that was really cool because in humans, we hear a lot about friendly bacteria in our gut doing a lot of good things for us. And that friendly bacteria also provides a lot of good things for plants and pulses and helping it increase the protein value. So with pulses per serving, you're getting about 7 to 9 grams of protein per serving. And per serving, that's equivalent to 2 ounces of meat. If you consume 2 ounces of meat, it is a little bit higher in protein, but the dietary guidelines does recognize it as 2 ounces of meat equivalents. I do get questions about, are they a complete protein source? And pulses are not a complete protein source. They are a little bit lower in methionine and tryptophan, so we need to combine it with a different grain, nut or seed. So if you combine pulses with nuts or seeds, or pulses with grains, then you're going to form a complete protein source. So the traditional beans and rice, that's a fantastic way of making a complete protein source. And no, you do not have to consume them at the same meal. If you consume them throughout the day, you're doing good. The body is pretty miraculous with helping make a complete protein, so you don't have to consume it at the same meal. Okay. I wanted to point out that they're an affordable protein source. So I took a breakdown of ground beef compared to beans and lentils, and then also converted that into a 2-ounce portion size. So for ground beef, the average cost is going to be around a little under $5 per 1 pound. For a can of 15.5 ounce beans, you're looking at $1.19. For a pound of dried beans, a little under $2, and a pound of dried lentils, you're looking at $2.65. So with that, we convert that into a 2-ounce serving. This is pretty amazing of showing you how much money you're going to be spending towards the same equivalent 2-ounce serving. Oh, so we got a question. Hi, Lindsay. Really enjoying this. Question is, what's the difference between canned beans and beans that you might have cooked from scratch? So beans cooked from scratch and canned beans, they're going to be the same from a protein standpoint and a macronutrient, as well as micronutrient, vitamin, and mineral. The main difference is going to be the sodium level. You're going to be able to control the sodium with the dried beans versus the canned beans. They're going to have a sodium already added to it. So that's going to be the biggest difference between preparing beans from dry and cooking with beans from can. But the nice thing is canned beans come with no sodium added, so you can find some really nice low sodium options out there if you're looking to help lower your sodium intake and watch that a little bit. So great question. So back to the ground beef equivalent 2-ounce serving compared to beans and lentils. So with ground beef, you're looking at 50 cents per 2 ounces. For cooked canned beans, you're looking at 30 cents per 2 ounces. Dried beans, 12 cents, and dried lentils, 32 cents. So there's a significant difference between a 2-ounce serving between beef and beans and lentils. So I wanted to share that to kind of put it in a little bit of perspective for you if that's something that you're trying to do, help save a little bit of money. This is a great way to do it without decreasing your protein and nutrient value. You're going to actually be adding some diversity and variety when you do this. Okay, so going on to the micronutrient breakdown of pulses, they are packed full of nutrients. If you look at like the world's healthiest foods, you're gonna find pulses up on that list. And I love it because they have so many different varieties of the vitamin and minerals. And the ones that I wanted to focus on for minerals are iron, zinc, magnesium, and potassium. So iron plays an essential role in blood production as well as transporting oxygen from your lungs to the rest of the tissue in your body. So it's extremely important, it has an extremely important role in your body. So if you have low iron levels or you tend to be on the anemic side, then beans are going to be, and pulses in general, are going to be a great option of helping increase that iron intake. Zinc's been in the news a lot lately because of COVID and everything going on in the world, but zinc is amazing with supporting your immune function. And again, pulses, fantastic source of zinc. It also helps with wound healing and supports thyroid health. Magnesium supports bone, nerve, muscle health. It also plays an important role in regulating your blood sugar. And the reason for this is that they found that magnesium helps you utilize insulin more efficiently. So it's going to help regulate your blood sugar. And they found that people who are pre-diabetic or diabetic have lower magnesium levels. And when they increase that, they seem to better regulate their blood sugar. Blood pressure, it also helps regulate blood pressure. And magnesium is nice because it helps relax the blood vessels. So really great source going to be through your pulses. You're going to find that magnesium. Potassium is a mineral that every cell in our body requires. It plays an important role in muscle contraction, heart contraction. It also plays an important role with intracellular fluid volume. It helps relax your blood vessels as well, so it helps manage that blood pressure, and it helps excrete extra sodium in the diet. So it's very important that you consume more potassium than you do sodium, so it can help with that role, and then help with the your blood pressure. But obviously, there are some conditions out there that you need to make sure you monitor your potassium. So make sure to always check with your healthcare provider before altering your diet to make sure that it's okay for you. So the vitamins that I want to focus on for pulses are the B vitamins. So folate, thiamine, and riboflavin. Excellent sources in the B vitamins. For folate, it plays an important role in red blood cell production. It also is critical for preventing neural tube defects in pregnancy. So if you're planning to get pregnant or you're in the early stages of pregnancy, incorporating pulses are going to be an excellent food source to help increase your folate intake and decrease neural tube defects risk. Fun fact, chickpeas or garbanzo beans have 3 times the amount of folate than kale. And I think this is a good example to use because we know a lot of times kale is on the top 10 superfood list. But for the folate content, pulses or chickpeas in particular are going to have a significantly amount more of folate in them. Thiamine and riboflavin, they both support helping with metabolism. Thiamine helps with carbohydrate breakdown and utilization of that energy, and riboflavin helps with protein, fat, and carbohydrate breakdown, and it also helps the absorption of other B vitamins. So this is one of my most favorite things about pulses is fiber. I get really excited about fiber because fiber is one of those areas in nutrition research that it's pretty cut and dry that it helps support overall health. And that's something that we can easily increase through incorporating more pulses in our diet. So per serving, you're getting about 6 to 8 grams of fiber per. We learned about half a cup cooked, a fourth cup dry. And I think this is a fantastic way to increase your fiber easily throughout the day or throughout your entire week. So fiber helps with satiety. So satiety helps you feel fuller longer. Gut health. So the more fiber that we have in our diet, it provides a healthier environment for that healthy bacteria to thrive and to grow. And we know that gut health is one of the main where our immune function is housed. So if our gut is healthy, then our immune system is going to be ready to fight the next infection and keep us healthy. It helps with healthy cholesterol levels. So fiber helps absorb cholesterol in the gut before it's reabsorbed into the body. So that's another fantastic thing with pulses is that they're high in soluble fiber, and that soluble fiber acts as a sponge. And when that happens, it really absorbs that LDL cholesterol, helps really reduce that fat or LDL cholesterol before it's reabsorbed into our body. Blood sugar control. So with fiber, it helps slow down the breakdown of our carbohydrates. And when it slows down the breakdown, it's going to help release energy slowly or the sugar into our bloodstream at a slower rate versus something that is simple carbohydrates, such as like white bread. So if you consume white bread, then it's going to break down pretty quickly, make your blood sugar do a roller coaster ride, and then go down. Whereas foods with fiber is going to help slow that process and stabilize your energy and not make you crash at the end. Also helps with weight management. That goes back to the satiety. It helps you feel fuller longer. So if you're trying to manage your weight, pulses are going to be great to add to your diet. So I wanted to share what the daily recommended amount of fiber is for both men and women. So men on average can be about 38 grams, and for women it's about 24 grams. Now with fiber intake, only about 5% of Americans meet these recommendations on a regular basis. So I encourage you to increase your intake of pulses. You can set a goal of consuming them a couple times a week and then moving your way up. But remember, just a half a cup cooked is going to increase your fiber intake 6 to 8 grams, which is significant if you look at the totals for men and women. Okay, so I get this question a lot about, do I soak beans or do I not? Beans and chickpeas, I'm going to put those together. And yes, you need to soak them. And the main reason for this is, yeah, it helps with the convenience standpoint of cooking time. But the main reason for me is that there's anti-nutrients such as phytate that are in dried beans. And the only way to really get them out is through a long soak time. And so anti-nutrients are going to bind to minerals. So the minerals that I just talked about, the iron, potassium, magnesium, zinc, those phytates are going to bind to that, and it's going to make it harder, more difficult for your body to absorb and digest those. So we want to make sure that we can give our body a really good chance of getting those minerals in. And so we want to soak the beans. I do recommend 8 to 12 hours. So it's nice just to if you're gonna be making a meal with beans or chickpeas, just put them in water, cold water, cover them, and just let them set overnight. That's a great way of making sure you can get enough soak time in. Drain the liquid off and rinse and put fresh water in before cooking. This also is going to help reduce gas production compounds within the beans and chickpeas. And I have a slide coming up about flatulence. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit. We got a question.
Will the quick cook method work the same way as soaking? We cook them quickly before cooking again?
That is a great question. So the question was, does a quick cook method work okay? And I would say it does from a convenience standpoint. It helps decrease the cook time. So a quick cook is usually you boil them for an hour, 30 minutes to an hour, and then you drain that liquid off, and then you put fresh in there. That does help with the cook time, but it doesn't necessarily help significantly with the phytates or the anti-nutrients. And like I said, that is the most important part for me for soaking beans, is decreasing those anti-nutrients so you can benefit through all the vitamin minerals, or just the minerals that the pulses are providing. So I do recommend the long soak. It also is more beneficial with reducing gas forming compounds, the long soak. So you can do a shortcut for cook time, but it's not going to help with those other two components. So that's a good question. For lentils, do I have to soak, or can I skip soaking? And for lentils, nope, you don't have to soak them. They don't have the significant amount of anti-nutrients that the beans and chickpeas do. But I do recommend giving them a good rinse, because with lentils, you'll find little debris and dirt and rocks in there. So make sure when you measure it out, pick through them, make sure there's nothing in there that you're going to have to then visit your dentist later for, and then give them a good rinse with cold water. Now for the turkey lentil sloppy joe, I did soak them 20 minutes. So soaking them is going to expedite the cooking time. So if you want to like cut off about 15 minutes, 20 minutes of cook time, then soaking them, 15, 20 minutes before cooking them is going to help with that process. So cook time for beans. So after soaking them, this is general rule of thumb, but I do recommend always to read the directions on the package, because they know best. But general rule of thumb is that you want to cover the beans just enough with water. You don't want to have like 3 to 4 inches above the beans with water. And then they should cook within about 1 to 2 hours if you soak them, versus all day if you don't. And the reason why you just want to cover them with water is that you want to preserve the pigments within the beans. If you cover them with a lot of water, then you're going to blanch out those pigments, which have a lot of antioxidants in there. So just make sure just to cover them. If you need to add more water so they don't burn, you can add more water as they cook. You bring to a boil and then reduce to a simmer, like I said, for about 1 to 2 hours. And they should be done for, and I do recommend just doing the fork test. If they are tender with a fork, then they're ready to go. And if they're not, just add about 15 more minutes on it until they are fork tender. Okay, we got another question.
What about using a crock pot or Instant Pot for beans?
Okay, crock pot or Instapot for beans. And I think a lot of people do this, especially the Instapot, to save time. It is a great way to save time. You're going to reduce, that 2-hour cook time to about 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes. So yeah, totally fine. But I do recommend to always soak the beans and chickpeas before you put them in a Instapot. So still do the soak before the cook. Crock pots, they're going to take probably all day. So if you just want to put your soaked beans in the morning before you head to work, or you just don't want to think about them, then you can add them to the crock pot, add the liquid in, and put them on medium heat, high heat, and then just let them cook all day, 4 to maybe 5 hours. And they should be nice and ready for you when dinner rolls around. Okay, so for lentils, for cooking, you're going to do 3 cups of water to 1 cup of lentils. Again, read the directions because they know best, but that's a general rule of thumb. And then you're going to bring this to a boil and reduce to a simmer. And then for lentil cook time is going to be about 15 to 35 minutes. The different color of lentils require different cooking times. So like the brown ones and yellow ones, they cook pretty quickly. The black ones are going to take longer to cook. Again, just read the package and they can help guide you through how long to cook them. Okay, so I wanted to touch base last on flatulence, because this is a side effect from pulses and beans and lentils. So I wanted to touch base on this because this might deter you from consuming pulses. So I want you to take these steps into account to help decrease that unwanted side effect. So first thing is, if you're not used to consuming pulses, start off slow. So eat a couple tablespoons a day or every other day, and then gradually increase. And a great way to do this is eating hummus. Use it for your veggies or eat it by the spoonful. And that's going to be a really easy way to slowly increase your pulses and help your system get used to it. And like I was saying earlier, the fiber is going to help with gut health, not gut bacteria. And so that's kind of what is happening when you increase your intake of pulses, is that your gut bacteria is saying, oh, yay, I got a lot of friendly food in here that I can eat and grow and be healthy. So that's what's happening during that time. But if you want to just start slowly and work your way up, that's a great way to introduce pulses and decrease that side effect. You can soak your beans, like I was saying, 8 to 12 hours. You can even soak them longer. So if you find that 8 to 12 hours still makes you a little bit bloated and gassy feeling, then increase that to a 24-hour soak. Another tip is adding just a pinch of baking soda. So that has been found, and research has shown this, that it helps decrease those gas-forming compounds. So just a pinch of baking soda. For canned beans, you want to rinse them really well. Do not cook them in the liquid that they come in. So you want to drain that off and rinse them under cold water really well to help decrease those gas-forming compounds. Another tip is adding epazote. And this is a traditional Mexican herb used in a lot of bean dishes. And so if you can find it dry, or if you can find it fresh, you can do a teaspoon per quart of water with your beans. They have said that this is a nice herb to help decrease flatulence. If you can find it fresh in the market, then doing a sprig of that and chopping that up and putting in your beans is going to be a nice addition to help with that. Also a flavor addition as well. So I'm going to wait just a little bit for any more questions that have come in before I check the lentil sloppy joes, and then I'm going to demonstrate one more pulses recipe before we conclude this evening.
We have a question about ground turkey, and sometimes we see on the packages it says lean, and what does that mean? Should we be looking for that?
Great question. So if you find ground turkey, just ground turkey, it's more than likely going to be a mixture of dark meat and light meat. So it's, turkey in general is pretty lean, and the only way that it's going to be higher on that saturated fat side is if they ground the skin up in it. So you can ask the butcher if the turkey contains ground skin, and then it's going to be a little bit higher, probably about 15 to 20% fat mark. But if it's labeled as lean ground turkey, then it's going to be 90-10, so 90% lean and 10% fat. And more than likely majority coming from the white meat being ground up. So that's a way that you can tell the difference. Same for chicken. So for chicken, lean chicken, it's going to be the white meat. And if it just says ground chicken, more likely it's going to be a combination of the white meat and the dark meat being ground. And again, if it just is ground chicken, I would ask, do you ground the skin up in it? Because that will increase the saturated fat content some if the skin is being ground up. But if they leave it out and it's a mix of dark and white meat, then it's still going to be on the leaner side. So I wouldn't be too concerned with the combo as long as the skin isn't ground up in.
Now we have a question from Nora. Nora would like to know, do you add epozote to the cooking water or the soaping water? And also, what about the baking soda?
Okay, good question. So the epozote is going to be added to the cooking water, not the soap water. So you add that when you're cooking the beans, and the baking soda is going to be added to the soaking water. And you're going to drain that, rinse the beans off, and then put them in fresh water to cook. Those were really great questions. Okay, so I'm going to move on real quick before we conclude. I'm going to check our turkey lentil sloppy mixture here. And then, oops, just splattered. My husband says when I cook, he always gets confused if one of the kids were in the kitchen or if it was me, and more likely it was me. So I'm a little bit of a mess. But our turkey lentil sloppy joe is about done. I'm going to increase the heat just a little bit so it can simmer. And then I'm going to move on to our herb white bean dip. So in this bowl, I have, it's a 15.5 ounce can of Great Northern beans that I drained the liquid off and rinsed really well. So I put that in there. Now I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of olive oil, a tablespoon of lemon juice, 1 clove of minced garlic, 1/4 of a teaspoon of rosemary, dried rosemary, and then 1/4 of a teaspoon of dry thyme, and 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. So if you don't have a food processor at home or a blender, or you don't want to dirty it, it's kind of main reason I don't like to use it for something like this. Just get a potato masher or a large fork and then just mash it. It's great arm exercise. So you just mash it for a few minutes. This is a really nice mild bean dip. So if you're not a big hummus fan and you're trying to find something that is not maybe so pungent on the bean or lentil chickpea side, then I really recommend using Great Northern beans, cannellini beans, because they're very mild in flavor and the texture, you can really get a really nice smooth consistency with them. This is also a very affordable dip, and it doesn't take, as you can see, it just takes a few minutes to whip together. So if you don't want to buy pre-made hummus and spend 2 to 3 times the amount that way you can make it at home for, then this is something that you can whip together in 5 minutes and keep in your refrigerator for several days and use as a veggie dip, or you can put it on a tortilla as spread for a wrap. You can also put it on flatbread, so if you want to do a Mediterranean style flatbread, this is a great spread for that. There's an idea. Whoops. I'm going to break something. Got another question.
A quick question about whether or not you can use fresh herbs in this.
Yeah, you can definitely use fresh herbs. So with with changing the dry herbs to fresh herbs, it's usually fresh herbs is about times 3 or 4 of what the dried herb is called for. So this is calling for 1/4 of a teaspoon of rosemary and thyme. So what I would do is use a teaspoon of fresh rosemary chopped and a teaspoon of fresh thyme chopped, if you want to use it fresh. Yeah, when it's springtime and herbs are growing, I definitely recommend replacing the dried with fresh because you get a nice fresh flavor. You can also top this with fresh parsley. So the recipe actually incorporates fresh parsley, but I decided to leave it out just because if you don't have fresh herbs on hand, you can still use dry herbs, and it's just as good in my opinion, and it's really simple and quick to put together. So
where can we find the recipe?
Okay, so the recipes, that's my next slide. So for this class recording, if there's something that you missed or want to review and go back to figure out what I said, then you can actually view this. Hopefully we'll get it posted by the end of the week. The recipes you can find on our website as well under our recipe library. The bean dip is actually one of our how-to videos. So if you're a visual person like myself, then you can watch the video of the herb bean dip on our website as well. So I'm gonna look at our lentil sloppy joes.
Somebody is asking if you can substitute something for the bun.
Yes, you can. So if you're wanting to skip the bun and maybe do something grain-free, and personally what I would choose, because I am a sweet potato lover, is I would do a baked sweet potato with this and just put the filling in the baked sweet potato. So that's a grain-free option. You can also, like I was saying at the beginning, replace the whole grain wheat bun with a gluten-free whole grain bun. You can also do a lettuce wrap. If you did a lettuce wrap, I would make sure that the liquid is reduced quite a bit, so it's not as sloppy, I guess. Hence the name Sloppy Joes. But if you're going to do a lettuce wrap, I would make sure that it is pretty reduced on the liquid side. Okay. So all you're going to do with this is spoon it over. And this smells great when you have your aromatics with onion and garlic. It really makes the room smell fantastic. And so there you go. It's a little bit sloppy, but that's okay. But I hope you enjoyed learning about our turkey lentil sloppy joes, how you can replace some of the meat that a typical sloppy joes recipe calls for with a pulse, and also a really quick, easy herb bean dip that if you're wanting to save some money and make it at home and help you increase your pulses intake throughout the week, this is a great one to start with. Like I said, it's really mild in flavor. But also I hope I pass along some nutrition information that gets you excited about pulses and encourage you to incorporate some more throughout the week in your diet. Okay. Well, if we have no more questions, then I'm going to sign off. Thank you again for joining me this evening. Before we head out, I wanted to pass along our market locations. We would love for you to come visit us, and we have 5 locations. We have a location on Sandy Boulevard, Lovejoy. We have one in Hillsdale on Capitol Highway, and then Tualatin, where we're filming this currently. And then we have our meat market in Beaverton. So I hope that you can go out and visit one of our stores and buy some of our pulses at the same time. And join us. We have a few more classes coming up in February, culinary classes. And those classes are going to be online, and you can sign up for more free classes. Thank you.